How to Prosper in a Gloomy Economy, Part 1. One of the very good things, and indeed very useful things, that an economy in trouble brings is something called focus. When things are good, it's very easy to lose focus. Not only do people waste time in things that do not matter, but even more deadly, it tends to make people wander off in the wrong direction. Let me quickly illustrate this very important point. There was a time the Coca-Cola company got very successful, that they started believing they could do anything. So they went off and bought a movie company called Columbia Pictures. In the boardroom, the reasoning for this was very sound. It made a lot of sense. When you had a movie company, you'd advertise the Coke product as much as you wanted to a wide audience all over the world. Yeah, because you have the star of the movie drinking Coke. You have a scene on the beach and they're drinking Coke. You can even get somebody to talk about how great Coke is. But the great Coke company quickly ran into some very serious problems, because running a movie company is not the same as selling soft drinks. Every business has its issues, and the company ended up selling off Columbia Pictures very shortly after it had purchased that movie company. But the good news is that the Coke company to date has never lost focus again. It has never lost focus on its core business, what it's really good at: moving, selling soft drinks right across the globe. Now, if a huge, prosperous company with massive resources can fail because of losing focus, what about somebody trying to start a brand new business? What about somebody competing with others trying to get a job in a company? Indeed, focus is a secret of success in life. Everybody is born into this world with a special gift, something they're really good at. And then the vast majority of humans go and mess up everything by being unfocused. And they leave this world failures, or with only very modest success. Very few focus, on what they're really good at, what they really enjoy, what they can do without even breaking into a sweat. And initially, the rest of us called them mad, crazy guys, because in their determination to remain focused, they do crazy things like drop out of college. But in the end, they find their true calling, and they're very, very successful. The late Steve Jobs and Bill Gates come to mind immediately. Now, in a shrinking economy, one has no option but to focus, even when it happens the wrong way. That is, they look around, nothing, and then they see a small window of opportunity and quickly grab it and focus everything on that single, tiny window of opportunity. Focus is key to success, and a bad economy helps a great deal to keep impatient, easily bored humans focused. Have you ever wondered why it is that people with very limited education tend to succeed big time and end up employing people with a lot of education and a lot of exposure? Let me drive this point home with a story from Kenya. Ambwere is a little-known Kenyan billionaire who hails from Western Kenya. He never, even for one day, stepped into a classroom or a school. And he became an orphan at the age of 7 years old. And when he got a job sweeping the offices of a construction company, he focused on it because he had nothing else. And while sweeping the office, he picked up the skills of the construction workers in that company. And when the owner of that construction company left the country because he was a foreigner, he gifted him with an old, worn-out toolbox. And he focused on using that toolbox because now he had nothing else. He didn't have a job. And his first major break came when he got a contract to supply hospital beds in Western Kenya. And from the profits of that, he purchased his first piece of land and started putting up his very first construction. Ambwere says his principle to date is that everything he earns, every 100 shillings he earns, he only spends 20. He keeps 80 aside each and every time without fail. Meaning that most of the money that lands in his hands is invested and only 20% spent. And if you look at this a little deeper, you'll realize that he had no option. He had no relatives. He was an orphan. He had nobody to rely on. He had no other option but to focus on the little he was doing. Today, Ambwere is a multi-billionaire who was in fact investigated by the government in the 80s because they couldn't believe how rich he was. They were sure he was doing something illegal, dealing in drugs or something like that. Now in this set of videos, I will give you very many brilliant ideas. But it is important that we all understand the basics so that it will be super easy for you to come up with the right idea for you if you don't find any of the many brilliant ideas I present here suitable for your situation. So, how do you prosper in a gloomy economy? There are two alternatives. There are two options. And you will need to choose one. Number one, focus on what you're good at. Number two, find an industry or an opportunity that will greatly benefit from the hard times. Let us start with the first option, and I'll give you an example. The real estate industry has taken a very big hit. Many people say it's dead or almost dead in Kenya. But maybe that is what you've been doing. You've gained a lot of knowledge and skills. You're very good at it. But now there's trouble in the economy. And so you can choose to remain in the industry, but find a brand new opportunity. The houses you've put up are empty. There are no tenants. Nobody wants to buy them. Remodel them. Change your 3-bedroom, 2-bedroom apartments into bed-sitters or cheap 1-bedroom apartments. Do your sums and find out how you can bring the prices down very dramatically. No matter how bad the economy is, people still have to live somewhere. You see, in Kenya, everybody has been focusing on the high end of the market in real estate in order to make a lot of quick money. Nobody or very few have focused on the riffraff, low-income housing or middle income. And yet there's plenty of evidence that there's a very huge demand there. A certain real estate company I know put up apartments, and they decided about 20% of the whole project would be very cheap, low-cost bed-sitters, which they were selling for 999,000 shillings. Just short of 1 million Kenya shillings. And he owned an apartment. The bed-sitters quickly sold out, and they were left with a very long waiting list of customers demanding those bed-sitters. Almost 3 times the number of people who actually were lucky enough to get units. Now, there's a very huge golden tip here. When the economy is gloomy, most people end up in the low end of the market, even if they can't admit it to themselves, because suddenly that is all they can afford. Therefore, this can apply to virtually any industry you may be in. Look for an opportunity in the low end of the market and focus there. Another quick example, this time from India. There's a famous Indian company called Nirma. For a long time in India, the poor could not afford a detergent to wash their clothes. Therefore, they used cheaper bar soap. The company saw an opportunity, and they started producing a bare basics detergent for the poor. And they did this by, among other things, getting rid of the expensive packaging. And although the margins per sale were very low, the market was huge, colossal, and they prospered so much that the company is legendary today. You see, the low end of the market is always huge. And this is very important in a shrinking economy. Because amongst that huge, colossal market, there are people who are down and out. They don't have a single penny. But because we are dealing with a very big number, there are also those amongst that huge market who have something to spare for your product or service. Always remember that. Number 2, find an industry or opportunity which has been created by the shrinking economy, or one which will thrive despite the shrinking economy. Now, something that will thrive despite a shrinking economy is food. People must eat, no matter how bad things are. Now, one idea that we have promoted on this channel, but which very few have been able to see, just how great an opportunity this is, how great an idea this is that of vertical sack farming. When you plant your food in sacks, you reduce your costs dramatically. For example, if there are no rains, you need very little irrigation because a sack retains water much better than the ground. Bottom line, you will need very little water to grow a lot of food. Number 2, one sack, for instance, in a project that I've been involved in, can take up to 300 plants. But if you are planting on the ground, conventional means, you'd only manage 3 or 4 in the same space. Now, what that means mathematically is that you can plant much more in a very little space. What it means is that if you can plant 300 where you'd have planted only 3 plants, it means that if you have only 1 acre where you're going to put up sacks and plant in each of them, you will be able to plant in that 1 acre. But let us be realistic. There are spaces between the sacks. And if you've done farming, you will know that it is never 100%. So you might find a few plants in some sacks don't grow according to expectations. So let us reduce, using those variables, let us reduce that figure to a quarter. Turning 1 acre into 75 acres is still a very major breakthrough. It will make a lot of difference for you. A huge difference in production and profits. And remember, you're selling to a huge, hungry market where food is becoming more and more scarce by the day. Now, there's one drawback with choosing this second option of going into a completely new industry, mostly one you're not very familiar with. Remember that it will take much longer for you to succeed because you have to learn. There's a learning curve involved. You will have to learn the skills, the ins and outs of that industry. No matter how smart you are, this will take time. Of course, you can reduce on your risk by bringing in somebody who is an expert in that particular industry, but that will involve cost. And still, as the owner of the company and the overall final decision maker, there'll still be that learning curve. You'll make mistakes, and therefore it will take a much longer time for you to succeed. So you need to bear this in mind if you go for the second option. But I'm not discouraging you. It is still very viable. You can still succeed big time. But you need to know the drawbacks. Now, I hope part 1 has been very interesting for you. I hope part 1 has been a journey of discovery for you. And we'll go even deeper and even into bigger and better and great ideas in part 2. So make sure we catch each other there. This is Chris, Kumekucha, all for a better Kenya.